Okay, so I made a critical mistake, and I wasn't checking if my camera was picking up my mic audio when I was just sprinting. It wasn't until I did the outro part of the Speedwork. So I'm just going to show you what I did in my Speedwork with no commentary, and then I'll have the mic on for the lift. So basically what we did some flying tens, we did some depth lands, we did some Russian lunge switches, just working on the thigh velocity. We did some straight leg bounds, and now we're pairing that with dynamic effort lower body. So we're going to go pin reverse lunges for speed. The target velocity is going to be 0.9 meters per second. That's peak velocity. Then we have some rocket jumps off the DC blocks, and then depth jumps. And then we have a couple accessories, and that'll be it. So we're going to power through this. Got 4 rounds of this superset right here, 3 rounds of our secondary block, and then we're going to do 2 rounds of our third block. So the first one you see, I kind of drop a little low. Okay, so that's part of the learning aspect and just warming up is abbreviating that loading phase. So that was very long and drawn out. The more reps I do here, the more I want to shorten that window and take on that load faster. So you see much more stiff as I go. Much more solid at the landing, not a long drawn out eccentric where that force is being dissipated across a larger surface area of muscle tissue. So that's a higher rate of force development right there, and the braking RFD and the braking forces are certainly higher in the manner that I'm doing them right now. So this is exactly what you want to see if you're going to use these before something like flying tens or high speed running or whatever else you're doing. I'm also trying to drill relaxed arms. Big range of motion with the arms, cycling through the shoulder and not the elbow. People confuse arm swing with just elbow extension flexion. So you want to create movement at the spine, rotation of the entire trunk. So I try to embed that into this drill a little bit. Next up, we have bounds through the timing gates. So trying to get through quick, not just going through the bounds and just getting the reps and trying to push out, but actually trying to get through there quickly, which is great for training that switching on and off of the hamstring and hip flexor group, which I find to be very, very beneficial. That reciprocal shutting on and off of those muscle groups, very conducive to high-speed running, max velocity. So I've been doing that. Another good variation to use is power skips for distance. You could do bent knee prime times. You could do acceleration bounds through gates. There's a couple different ways you can go about doing that. Pretty good. 9-5. I do want to address one thing. I got a question yesterday in my comments on my low day post about tempo runs before max velocity day, and if I feel run down from them, or like it hinders my ability to run at max velocity. And my answer is no, and the reason is skill related. The close proximity between working on the mechanics with the tempo runs and the max velocity sessions makes my technical approach easier in this session. So the things I'm working on are, one, easier to feel. I'm creating those patterns more successfully, and I'm able to repeat the mechanics that I want more often. So it's kind of like when I was pitching in baseball, or like pitchers nowadays too, they throw what are called touch and feels, like the day before they go pitch in a game. A touch and feel is just when you're throwing all your pitches, you're mixing grips, you're throwing at a submaximal intensity, and all it is just to work on the skill. When you get into the game, the proximity to that skill session, that throwing session, is good for your confidence. It's good for actually having the ability to execute your pitches better. So the volume I wasn't doing wasn't very high yesterday either. So you could argue, okay, 1,000, maybe 1,200 yards of tempo might hinder you a little bit, but I did like 650, 700 yards, and I'm running at about 70% effort. I gotta rest longer for this next one. Not quite where I want to be right now. All right, not the greatest session ever. I did get a couple good ones, a couple 9.5s. Last two were 1.00 and then 1.03. So the last two were just an absolute atrocity. Thinking way too much while I'm running. So much thought and not enough just doing it. Hopefully next week is a little better, more consistent, and we'll go from there. But we're about to take these cleats off. We're gonna go over to the weight room, do a little dynamic effort lift with some depth jumps, some pin reverse lunges, and some other stuff, and then that'll be today. All right, just getting loose here. Warm up set 2 now. I'll start using the jumps here too, getting loose on those. Get out of 45 there. Goal with these is just stiffness. Try to resist deformation as best you can. What that means is just the tendons changing length and getting into deeper ranges of motion. You don't want to be in a deep range. You want to be quick, you want to be stiff, you want to be tall. Shallow angles. One more warm up. So not a single rep was picked up on the camera for the last set. So let's try this again. Hopefully this works. These cameras really trip out a lot. I wish we had GymAware or something like that. Even Vitruve, like Tendo unit, whatever. Something that's attached to the bar. I can't stand these Bluetooth and remote accelerometers because they don't work. They just simply don't work. So we'll see if they want to change their mind for this set. Nothing, not a single rep. Not one. So a smarter way to progress depth jumps isn't always going to be just volume, and it shouldn't be the height you're jumping to, because the height you're jumping to is going to lengthen your ground contact time if you're trying to get a significant amount of height, because you still want to maintain some level of springiness off the ground. The way to progress it, in my mind, the easiest way, is progressing the drop height. You can see that it's still very springy, and I'm not shooting my knees up really tall to get to a tall box. I'm not spending a ton of time on the ground. Okay, set 3. I've kind of given up on the camera. Two reps registered right there. 0.98, 0.99, so we're good. So something I was going to talk about when I was over at the track, which I did talk about, my audio didn't pick it up, was inhibition and what the purpose of clearing it is. Okay, so on these rocket jumps I'm doing on the DC blocks, you can see that I'm kind of firing through the box. I'm not slowing myself down and slowing my leg down until I've finished that push. Okay, and that's a skill that you learn. There's a lot of athletes that do drills like that and they slow down and they don't fire through the box. And those properties of exercises like that are going to translate to sprinting. So when you do A skips and you're just going for rhythm and you're not really striking through the ground like that and pushing yourself through the ground, you're not practicing a proper stride. You're just practicing rhythm. You're not really teaching your body to accept forces at a high speed with intent through the ground. Okay, so you see here, like as I hit the ground, I'm finishing through the push. Okay, so why is that important for running fast? Because everyone wants to just get off the ground quicker. You actually have to find the balance between getting off the ground and pushing through and actually imparting force into the ground. This translates, I think, really well to that feeling of actually getting through the ground. You commonly see a lot of inhibition with the depth lands, right? When you drop off a box and you really drop into a really deep range of motion, that's your body shielding. It doesn't want to take on that load abruptly. So depth lands teach you that high braking rate of force development and that acceptance of force at high speed. That's just one thing I like altitude lands for. And you also see it in single leg hops. I used to do hops and it was like this. I would kind of kick up and not really, I was just trying to get off the ground. But that doesn't do anything for you. This does something for you. I mean, you can hear the difference. That's way more intentional and way more beneficial than just trying to get off the ground quick. So that's why inhibition is important. You can get off the ground fast, but you don't really want to do that if you're not producing any force into the ground. So clearing inhibition and practicing things like hops, where you are purposely going after the ground. You're not waiting for the ground to come to you, right? It's the opposite. You're the one finding the ground and you're the one putting force into it instead of just saying, oh crap, the ground's here, now I got to get off. That's not the right approach. So we got to teach our nervous system to fire in that manner. Drop catch RDL, fast negative, fast reversal. Really quick turnaround as fast as I can. 3 sets of 4, pairing that with a drop catch, single leg hip thrust, which you will see in a second. Practicing fast relaxation. I find this circuit so fun. This is gonna be the last set that I record here. Then I got some drop catch Nordics on the glute ham device and then some hip flexor bridges. So that will be it, but I'm gonna end it here. I will see you guys next time. Appreciate you watching. Keep a lookout for my sale. It ends on Cyber Monday. 30% off all programs.